YouTube viewers, Rectangular back, this time with another episode of Wrecked and Tangled, where I show off some behind the scenes of an A.C.B.A. setup. This time we have a picture that I did for haul video number 56, where I was able to get the Marvel Universe Goliath seen there in the back. And I wasn't quite sure if I was going to be able to pull this off. It was pretty challenging. Goliath is a 12-inch figure and has decent articulation, but trying to get him in a squatting pose with all these other figures grouped around him was quite a challenge. And not only that, but trying to incorporate all these different cutouts from the comic book panel was also a big pain. Took a while to set them up or digitally clean them up, and then print them out and clean them up, the edges, cut them out, and then trying to figure out how to integrate them all into the shot was a little bit tricky as well. Normally I try to crop out in a non-digital way, in a analog way, with just the trick of the camera, any kind of stands or threads that I might be using to support the cutouts, but in this case just couldn't pull it off in a way that I was happy with. I could have moved the stand off to the shot, out of the shot, which it actually is out of the shot, but the white painted part of the stand that's attached, the cutout is attached to, is still visible in the non-edited version. So I would have had to have pulled that cutout all the way to the side, past Vision's shoulder, in order for you not to see that in the final version. And I didn't want that cutout to be so far from Wasp's head that you'd be, kind of thinking, well, is that the thought bubble for, is that the word bubble for Vision, or is it for Wasp? Because it would be so far off to the right. So I made a creative decision to just put it where it belongs, and then go in and digitally erase that stand, the white painted area of the stand out of the shot. It was visible. It wasn't blaringly obvious. I think if you maybe were looking at it on your phone, you may not have noticed, but most people tend to visit the page on their PC, and especially if you had enlarged the shot, you would have seen not only the stand for the cutout for Wasp, but the threads that Hawkeye's cut out. What I had to do is suspend, pan out here, that's my shelf with my lights on it, and I had to suspend a tie rod insulation hanger above the figures using some thread. Used a couple of thumbtacks and attached thread to it, and strung the insulation hanger above the shot there. Hopefully you can see. I'm getting too out of focus. And then I was able to hang the cutout for Hawkeye with more thread and some masking tape. And unfortunately, after a while of having to adjust everything, that cutout got a little bit tilted to the right. So the one shot in the video that has a lot of light on it, that one was actually the most or the least crooked, but I thought it just had too much light, so then I ended up going with a little bit darker shot, and so that was one little mistake. Also, Wasp, her elbow should be kinked out a little bit more towards Vision's head, should be a little bit more at a 45-degree angle. So those are the only two little things that details that I wished I had caught before I was satisfied with the shot. But man, I must have taken. I need to look on my computer, and I'll probably add it here as an annotation. How many different pictures I took before I was happy with the pose and the lighting and the position of the cutouts. I'm guessing off the top of my head, I must have taken about 120 shots before I was happy with everything. So I had to put the camera on the tripod sideways, and I'll show, it's not gonna look right, but I had to crank it up like this. Fortunately, my tripod does have that ability to be mounted sideways, and I had it in widescreen, just like I'm shooting now. So this is how I was able to crop it and get everybody in the shot. You can only see Panther from the shoulders up. So basically, this is how it would have looked, or this is how the final shot looked. And I'll go ahead and show you what the final product looks like right now. Okay, so that's what I went through to get everybody in the shot and get the right angle. I have the tripod pretty high up. It's probably almost 5 feet. It's probably the middle of my chest. I'm 5'10", so that's how high the camera is having to sit, so that I could get the right angle for the shot. And let's see, take the camera off the tripod for a moment. So these cutouts are just propped up on with some masking tape and just some cardstock that I folded, cut as little what are they called? Like frames. And folded the paper so that it would get the cutouts at the right angle so you could read them. I swapped out the hammer for this Giant Man Thor with the Marvel Select formerly Disney Store exclusive Thor hammer. It's a lot more classic looking, where it's very plain and kind of smaller head on the front there. Let's see, I tried to use the Aries Wave Vision just because his proportions are a little bit more realistic, but the Vision in the comic book panel, which I'll show here, so as you could see, Vision was pretty big. He's actually really tall in that shot, and actually kind of broad, and his head is kind of broad too. So I thought this Vision was a lot better representation, and this one is just a tiny bit taller, even though I couldn't get his legs closed in anymore to make him taller. And then I had to use another piece of cardstock to hide. You can see Goliath's leg is actually twisted backwards, so that he would have some support there, and I have a piece of cardstock that's covering it up. And you can see that. So yeah, Vision is standing right in front of the piece of paper, and I trimmed it. I had to trim it actually had to make it a few times before I could get the right proportions. It's kind of like an oblong triangle. And then my method of just propping the cutout on a wire flag, and most of the time I can hide it pretty well with this white paint, but it was just showing up a little bit too much for my taste. And then that cutout above Goliath is taped to a piece of cardstock as well. Actually, it might just be 3x5 card, flash card, and then masking taped to the suspension, the what's it called, insulation hanger. And then I already went over the cutout for Hawkeye. So yeah, I'm really surprised that fortunately these cutouts were pretty large as far as the font and the print. Fortunately they were a little bit closer on the page, otherwise they might not be in focus, because you have two different focal lengths here for the cutout. You've got these all the way in the back, which is about 10 inches, might even be a foot away from this one. So fortunately my camera was did a good enough job of focusing on the foreground and the background so that you could read both sets of cutouts. So really just got lucky there. You know, the camera was all the way back here. So I guess it pays to have a decent camera. And Pharaoh was asking me what kind of camera I have. I know he just got a new one. But this is a Panasonic DMC-FZ200, and I mostly got it because I knew I was going to be shooting a lot of video, and this camera's had a really good reputation for shooting video, and it also has a external shoe for a microphone if I wanted to beef up my audio a little bit. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. I did have these painter's lights on as well because I needed a little bit more light. I have those mounted on the side. So just a lot of tweaking the poses and the positioning of the cutouts and the light. Let's see. Oh, I had a really pain in the ass with this Thor because if you've seen in one of my more recent haul videos, when I got this guy, I didn't know, the seller didn't tell me that his waist was glued. So yeah, I was struggling to try to get him, get his chest turned more towards Panther without his cape knocking over Cap. And also I had to kind of, oh, I think it fell a little bit, but Cap's shield, you know, fortunately I had this old Toy Biz Cap shield that's got the nylon straps on it so I could strap it to his back, because when it's just in the peg hole, if you just plug it in, it sits real flat, and so I had to, in order to be able to see the star on the shield, which you can in the shot, I had to strap it on there and then kind of loosen up this side and loosen up the his left side and tighten up the right side as much as I could, and then prop it with the little wrist peg, kind of push that in towards his back so that the shield would show up at an angle. And yeah, initially I had him leaning a little bit too far forward, and had to monkey with him quite a bit to get him to stand upright, but also still get the shield in the shot, because that's the reason why I had him so far forward in the first pictures I was taking, so that you could see the shield, because you definitely can see the shield in the comic book panel. Let's see, I think that is pretty much it. Oh, and I did get the second wasp to remove her wings, and they were a bitch to get off. They actually are pinned. They have little metal pins that you can't just you just can't cut. I mean, I don't know. I think I just kept bending them until they finally snapped, but you can't just cut them off. You have to use like a Dremel or just brute force and snap them off, and was able to save the wings. So don't know if we'll end up using them for anything, but yeah, lots of different things went into this shot. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the way everything turned out, and hopefully you guys liked the video and liked the picture. Please share with your friends if you can. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I love hearing back from you guys, so please leave a comment below. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you guys later.